And the Commanders have come to terms on a one-year deal with tight end Zach Ertz. The Lakers take on the Kings tonight. You can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760. Pre-game coverage starts at 7:15. Tip will be shortly after 7:30. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at progressive.com. That's progressive.com.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour one of Jon and Jim. It's a little bit of deja vu all over again, Yogi Berra edition, because you don't have Jim. But that's kind of becoming more the norm because this is the third time in the last four shows we haven't had Jim. Now, he's having a procedure done. He should be back to 100% tomorrow. Now, the caveat there is he's off Friday for his bachelor party. So you got me, you have Brent. Jim may, now according to Jim yesterday, the guy that is miserable when he sneezes or has an allergy, and like you can tell all show how miserable he is, he claims that after having like a kidney stone procedure this afternoon in the 3:00 hour, he may come in. But
I'll believe it when I see him walk through the door.
Agreed, and that'll be tomorrow. All right, so Brian Dutcher's going to join us at 3:30. This is a really, really good story. I mean, obviously, Brian Dutcher's received the contract extension through 27-28. And this is actually the first year of a 5-year deal coming off that national championship game run. Kyle Glazer, by the way, Baseball America, we're going to talk about the state of this Padres roster in 5 minutes because they're leaving for Korea in 7 days. Like they'll be en route to Korea 7 days from right now. And they're 2 weeks out from their opener. So we'll talk to Kyle Glazer in 5 minutes. I want to spend the next 5 minutes just really congratulating Brian Dutcher, and it goes beyond that. It's his staff, it's his players, it's those that have, walked in his shoes previously, like Steve Fisher and others. I mean, you think about where this program is right now, and in the, it's like you got to see the forest through the trees. Me and Brent are working last night on the wrap-up show after the Aztecs lose a heartbreaking game of a difficult loss in a game where they had chances, potential to win late with ramifications. Absolutely. Everyone can agree with that. It was an important game. UNLV, to their credit, won the game. And San Diego State lost a close one last night, 62-58. And you read the text, and I see social media, and I understand the world we live in. And then I wake up this morning, guys, and the Aztecs remain ranked in the AP poll and top 20 metrically and positioned to potentially grab a 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. And they're coming off the first ever trip to a Final Four. Forget the Final Four, they then win on one of the greatest moments in San Diego sports history. And they're playing for a national championship in men's basketball last year under the direction of Brian Dutcher. And he's won 21 games every year he's been here. And he's got San Diego State on a path for another NCAA tournament. And the direction of the program is as high as it's ever been. So you got to be able to see the forest through the trees. What Steve Fisher did and what Brian Dutcher is doing is remarkable. End of sentence. Now, we can all be fans about it. That's fine. You can all want your team to win every single time they're on the floor. Shoot, Purdue is like the consensus top team in America. They lost to a 16 seed last year in the NCAA tournament. And there's no guarantee they're going to the national championship game this year. And, UConn won a national championship last year, and they've lost games this year too, including a couple by double figures where people, had questions about them as well. It's hard to be perfect. The Mountain West is good. That's not a bad thing for San Diego State. Would they have preferred to win last night? Of course. Would they have preferred to win at Nevada a couple of weeks ago or Colorado State? It goes on and on. Yeah, there's no question about it. But the fact that Brian Dutcher's future is secure is a huge win for San Diego sports fans. Huge. The volatility of college athletics, specifically the revenue-producing sports like football and men's basketball, where when the portal opens, there are thousands of players in, and for San Diego State to sustain success in the portal era, in the NIL era, right? They're never going to be Kentucky in resources, yet they've won at a rate like Kentucky has won over the last 7 years. And that's where Brian Dutcher, his staff, his support staff, his players, fans, all deserve credit. those that have made Viejas what it is. So I think with the benefit of perspective, you really appreciate what this means for San Diego State University, for the athletic department, for men's basketball, for your future as a sports fan in San Diego. The idea that Brian Dutcher is locked in long-term. Nobody defines long-term more than Brian Dutcher. He's been here 25 years, sitting just to the side of Steve Fisher for nearly 2 decades. You talk about being loyal, and now it's all paid off. And he deserves. I haven't seen the terms of the deal. I think Mark Ziegler has published it. I haven't read the article, just published. But whatever he's making is well earned and deserved, right? It's well earned. And he waited his time. He waited his turn. And what has happened with San Diego State under Coach Fisher and Coach Dutcher is going to be talked about in college basketball circles for a long, long time. Remember when Steve Fisher retired? I think it was maybe the AP article or ESPN.com saying, "My legacy is San Diego State." Because what Coach Fisher and Dutcher and others did when they first got here to just get the thing off the mat, the idea that you could get to this point at any point is truly remarkable and incredible. And I don't know what's going to happen down the stretch. I don't know what's going to happen senior night on Friday against Boise State. Brian Dutcher will join us at 3:30. And I don't know what's going to happen in the Mountain West tournament or the NCAA tournament, but I do know this. It takes nothing away from what Brian Dutcher has accomplished over these 7 years. So I hope it lasts another however long he wants to be here, because this run of 2 coaches, these pillars for San Diego State athletics, man, if the next 25 years look anything like the last 25 years, I'm in. Where do I sign up? I'm 100% in. 100%. Love to get your reaction to it. Brian Dutcher signed through 27-28. San Diego State announcing a 5-year extension that includes this season earlier today. Dutch will join the show coming up in 20 minutes. Now, Kyle Glazer, formerly of Baseball America, is going to join us in just about a moment. And again, our text line is open, 70470. You can start your message with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with the word team. The same questions we've had for weeks, if not months, with the Padres exist. I'm seeing signings around baseball. Outfielders are coming off the board. Some still remain. For whatever reason, AJ Preller, his front office, are convinced, at least at this hour, on March 6th, which is not the finishing hour. There's still time. 2 weeks until Korea, 3 weeks until opening day. But for whatever reason, at this point, they are content. I think that's a fair word to use. Now, you're never content as a GM. You're always trying to improve your roster. But how could you argue anything other than contentness with the San Diego Padres this offseason? They've had time to think this over. They've had a lot of time. Like, they thought long and hard on trading Juan Soto. They did it. They knew on the other side of the Soto trade, they had plenty of time to figure this out. Did they address some needs in the Soto trade? I think they did. I absolutely think they did. Do they have a huge hole to fill in left field? Yeah, like they have a literal hole because we don't know who the left fielder is going to be. Jackson Merrill all of a sudden could be the center fielder opening day for the Padres. And he's had some moments throughout camp here and in the Grapefruit League. But from Soto to who knows in left field, they just haven't addressed it. Why? Is it a financial reason? Is it a level of content? We'll figure it out on the fly. We have enough in our system. We have a good young core that can benefit us. We have a player like Jurickson Profar. For whatever reason, even though, again, nobody is advocating, or people are advocating, but people understand when you're not in on the Cody Bellingers. I know he's off the board. They understand when you're not in on the Blake Snells. He was a Cy Young Award winner. It's going to be hard to retain his talent no matter what your budget is. What is harder for me to understand, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's my thick head, I don't know, maybe it's my baseball background, but I don't understand how serviceable, veteran, reliable, everyday outfielders are available on the market at a relatively reasonable price. I'll give you an example. A good outfielder today signing, Eddie Rosario, $4 million deal. And that puts in perspective players like Michael A. Taylor, outfielder, or Adam Duvall, or we've talked obsessively about Tommy Pham. I'm not advocating for the Padres to spend $20 million on one player for one season. I understand the financial constraints they're up against, and you could argue that the risk isn't worth the reward of paying that player that kind of money and going over the CBT, yada, yada, yada. But when you don't have a regular for a position and your season's about to start and you could go get one for $5 million and you don't, what is the reason? What is the reason as to why they aren't? I'm not sitting here today saying that you sign Michael A. Taylor and all of a sudden you're going from 81 wins to 91 wins. But I am saying you need to fill out your everyday lineup and you don't want to just plug in to plug in. And I'm not calling anyone, it's not negligence, but it's curious is what it is. And maybe they'll shut us up by making a signing and then I'll move on to the next thing, like the fifth starter or the DH or their bench or the 82 and 80-23 season where they've lost Hader, Snell, and Soto. But right now, it's staring us in the face. They're without a regular on their team, if not multiple. There's no DH. You'd say it's Manny Machado, but what happens when he's a third? And hopefully that's from day one. It's Manny. He's going to do everything in his power to make himself available. Hold on real quick here, Brent. Let's see. Oh, you know what? This might have been, let's see. So I asked Kyle Glaser, Baseball America, to join. Oh, he meant to, he could do 5 minutes from now. Let's call him. Well, that sounds good. I'm going to like the text. Let's call him back in like 2 minutes, Brian. Let's go with that. And then we'll keep it short and sweet as Brian Dutcher will join us at 3:30. Kyle Glaser, great baseball voice. We'll catch up with him for 5 or 6 minutes. I mean, does he have the same questions I have? The other question I had today was about Xander Bogaerts. We can get into that with Kyle Glaser. What I find also kind of fascinating is why Bogaerts on a Kim off day, and he's been dealing with some back issues, Ha-Seong Kim, is back at shortstop. Shouldn't he be playing second base? He's never played second base. So I figured he'd be like, you're the second baseman now, is how I look at it. But apparently not. Xander Bogaerts was playing some short here today. Kyle, my apologies if this was set up for tomorrow. I appreciate you taking a few minutes for us. We got Brian Dutcher, actually, San Diego State men's basketball, hopping on in 15 minutes. But appreciate it because the Padres, again, are opening in 2 weeks. They're leaving for Korea in a week. Kyle is an amazing baseball voice. Used to work at Baseball America. Has a ton of background, obviously, with systems and prospects because of his time with Baseball America and great insight on the Padres. Let me just ask it like this. In your perspective, would it be a mistake if the Padres did not add a veteran, experienced, major league caliber outfielder to this roster?
I think that it certainly would benefit them to do so. Jose Azocar is certainly a nice fourth outfielder type. Jurickson Profar, I think at this point in his career, you kind of prefer as well to be kind of a reserve part-time player as opposed to an everyday player. So can they survive with those two as their starting left fielder and center fielder? Sure. Would they be a playoff caliber team with those two? They would really need the top half of the lineup to really, really, really carry a lot of the weight there. And there's no question they would benefit from adding another everyday caliber starting major league outfielder.
So the next question is, and not that you speak for I'm not asking you to speak for AJ Preller or Eric Etzender or the organization, but we opine on this all the time. When I see a deal like I saw today, Eddie Rosario, incentive laden, $4 million, and I see other, mid-tier outfielders out there. And I don't know the full cost. Maybe some are more and some are less. Maybe some are 4 million and others are 8 to 10 million. But with other serviceable outfielders out there, is this solely a dollar and cents decision, or why do you think, in your estimation, they're not willing to spend the $4 to $8 million to address a clear need?
Yeah, the Eddie Rosario deal, frankly, is one the Padres should have made. He would have been a substantial upgrade, whatever his flaws are.
Yep.
He would have been a substantial upgrade for the Padres as a starting left fielder. So sometimes it's dollars and cents. Sometimes teams, for whatever reason, are less bullish on a player and what that player can give them. Clearly, the Padres were outbid by a number they certainly could have matched. So that tells you a little bit about maybe what their offer entailed. Sometimes it's also just the player has personal preferences. But there's no question, would the Padres be a better team with Eddie Rosario as their everyday left fielder versus Jurickson Profar? The answer is absolutely yes.
100%. I'm with you. Kyle Glaser, again, with us here on Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. So let's assume that Jackson Merrill's on this team because he's going to be on this team. And let's assume he's a regular because they're not going to put him on the bench as a 20-year-old getting an opportunity in the major leagues. What would your reasonable expectations be for Jackson Merrill, whether it's in the first half of the year or here in 2024 in general?
I think you'd have to be very, 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 very patient with him. And your assumption that, they wouldn't bring him up to put him on the bench, keep in mind, they did the same thing with CJ Abrams a few years ago, where they brought him up after about a similar number of games in Double-A. He made the opening day roster. Then they put him on the bench and gave him irregular playing time, and it only hurt him. So you would hope they've learned from that mistake. But again, as talented as Jackson Merrill is, as instinctive as he is, as mature of a player as he is, and as good as he's looked at times in spring training playing the outfield, it's very, very, very different in the regular season. This is a guy who has played all of 46 games above A-ball. And I think you have to expect there to be a lot of early struggles and be patient with him. If he's able to come up and make an immediate impact, kudos to him, but I don't think that can be the expectation or should be the expectation.
Do you think they'll rely, is there going to be a DH here? I know Mike Schill has talked about the half day off. You can rotate through regulars. Would that be your expectation for the way the Padres plan to do this? Rotate through regulars as their quote unquote full-time DH?
As their roster is currently constructed, yeah, I mean, that looks like what they would have to do. Obviously, we need to see, how Manny Machado comes back with his arm. Obviously, it's never a bad idea to give players, a little bit of a day off, some time off their legs, whether that's maybe, Kyle Higashioka develops really good relationships with some of these young pitchers, particularly some of these pitchers that came over from the Yankees, and maybe Luis Campusano DHs on those days. But yeah, as this roster is constructed right now, it would be guys rotating through DH as opposed to a true everyday DH.
Curious to get your opinion on this. I mean, Bogaerts clearly makes a selfless, not selfish, a selfless decision moving off short after 1 year in this long deal to second, but he's also had some interesting quotes where he's like, hey, on Kim's off day, I'd like to play short. And I didn't know if that was being humorous or not, but then I see today, Kim dealing with a back and Bogaerts plays short. Does that make sense for the Padres? Again, he's versatile. You may need him at some point if there's a need, but as a guy that hasn't played second, shouldn't he potentially be spending his time at least this spring at second as opposed to short, or how do you see it?
No, not necessarily. I mean, he is, for all intents and purposes, going to be their shortstop in the event that Ha-Seong Kim is injured or needs a day off. So you certainly would have given him some reps out there. I mean, obviously, second base is going to be the bulk of where he plays, but there's nothing wrong with throwing him out there every couple of days, getting him some reps there. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
What are the when you look at fourth and fifth starter and the way this is playing out? Is there an inside track at this point? I mean, who do you envision potentially filling maybe one of those two spots for the Padres come late March?
Yeah, again, I think you're talking about guys who are, largely young and unproven in a lot of these cases, so it's going to come down to the wire. I think, look, Randy Vasquez has shown some good things. Johnny Brito's a little bit older. Michael, he's shown some good things. I think we just have to wait and see. And keep in mind, we're talking about young pitchers who are now going to be, probably topping their previous innings highs by quite a bit if you're asking them to take the ball 32 times a year. So whoever may or may not be the fifth starter on opening day, they're going to get plenty of innings in some form or fashion over the course of the season. Really, right now, it's just about seeing who can win a job and go from there. And I expect it to come down to the wire.
Yeah, I think normally Kyle Glazer with us right now, and Jon Jim, you don't think much of spring training numbers, especially with veterans. If Joe Musgrove was healthy a year ago, or Yu Darvish was healthy a year ago, I don't even know if we concern ourselves at all with anything that they're doing necessarily this spring. Does that conversation change though? Because Musgrove hasn't pitched since last July until this spring, and then Darvish hasn't pitched since last August. Are you more particular with their springs, knowing that they weren't fully healthy a year ago?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if anything, these guys have more rust to shake off because of those factors.
Right.
So I think the fact that, it maybe is ugly early, it's not a big deal. As long as they're good to go come opening day, whatever process that entails, they should be fine.
Kyle, we appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on. My apologies on a bit of a mix-up, but thanks as always for your perspective. We appreciate it. San Diegans appreciate it, so thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys.
All right, Kyle Glazer with Baseball America. All right, we're going to duck out because Brian Dutcher just announced signing a 5-year extension. It includes this year, so 4 additional years remaining on the Mesa. This stability of this men's basketball program continuing into the future, the successes they've had as well. So Brian Dutcher is going to join us on the other side. It's Jon and Jim. We're just underway. We've got giveaways for you here today as well. Do not go anywhere. Brian Dutcher extension announced earlier today, looking ahead to senior night, Friday. What a class. Guys that have played for a national championship at San Diego State. Brian Dutcher, Aztecs head coach, joins us next.
Here's what's trending from the Heart Sports Network, presented by Progressive Insurance. The Aztecs lost on the road last night to UNLV 62-52. The team's final regular season game is this Friday at Viejas Arena against Boise State. Pre-game coverage with John and Fletch will start at 6 p.m., and the tip with Ted will be after 7. And in other Aztec news, head coach Brian Dutcher signed an extension today to stay with the university. You can hear him coming up with John next. The Padres took on the Reds in Cactus League action today, but lost 6-2. In NFL news, the Bills cut ties with All-Pro safety Jordan Poyer, and the Commanders have come to terms on a one-year deal with tight end Zach Ertz. The Lakers take on the Kings tonight. You can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760. Pregame starts at 7:15 with the tip around 7:30. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at progressive.com. That's progressive.com.
All right, as announced this afternoon, San Diego State's Brian Dutcher, head coach of the men's basketball program, coming off a national championship game appearance, signing a 5-year extension that includes this season through the 2027-28 year. Obviously, he's done an amazing job in his 7 seasons on the Mesa. We will get into everything that's to come. It's obviously a big week for San Diego State. It's a big time. I mean, the month is March. So I'm sure that Dutch has bigger concerns than his contract, considering senior night is Friday, Mountain West tournament is next week, Selection Sunday is about 10 or 11 days from right now. It is always good to catch up with Brian Dutcher right here on Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Dutch, we can get into last night in the season, but I have to start by congratulating you. It's wonderful news for Aztec fans. 5 seasons, including this one. It takes you through 27-28. There's, first of all, congratulations. Secondly, there's no way you could have envisioned this, right? I mean, you get here with Coach Fisher. Yeah, you didn't know how long you'd be here. Could you have even dreamt of this?
No, I mean, obviously, we had great confidence in what we were doing. We thought we could build this into a winner, or we wouldn't have come.
Yep.
And that's Steve Fisher's vision. It's Rick Bay hiring us, Viejas Arena being built by the students at San Diego State to set us up for this run. And it's just been really gratifying, but we're still driven to be better. We want to be better, and that's the goal every day, is to get better.
As a program, when you initially got here and you go back, 25 years, was there a first hurdle you felt like from a program perspective needed to be cleared to get San Diego State pointed in the right direction? Like, what did it take initially to get this thing pointed the right way?
Talent.
Yeah.
We had to go out and recruit. We had to sign good players. And whether it was Randy Holcomb coming all those years ago, Tony Bland transferring from Syracuse, countless others that believed in our vision, because there wasn't anything tangible at that time, believed in our vision for the program. And then obviously what we've done, people can see it's brick and mortar now. It's all been done. We have players in the NBA. We played on the highest stage you can play on, played for a national championship. And now it's just continue to try to build the program where we can go back and win a national championship.
What are the hurdles like moving forward? The sport has changed so much since you first got here 25 years ago. We talk about NIL. We know about the impact of the portal. What are the hurdles that you'll continually need to clear from this point and moving forward as you continue on in this deal?
It's NIL. It's NIL. That's everything. And, it's when they talk about the Ohio State job, they're wondering if they have enough NIL, or all the NILs going to football. And so people aren't talking about just the job anymore. They're talking about resources that go with the job. And we've done a good job. Mesa Foundation, we're raising awareness, we're raising money. And whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, NIL, if you want to stay relevant, you have to be a part of it. That's what we're trying to do, grow NIL, grow the program, and continue to aspire to greatness.
MesaFoundationSD.org for Aztec fans. All right, so the sustainability, I mean, 2 head coaches for 25 plus years, your contract going now through the end of the 27-28 season. What does it signify for yourself, for your staff, for your support staff, for your players? What can you say about the state of San Diego State's basketball program?
That as good as we are, we don't rely on or look back on what we've done. We're looking what we want to do. Continue to keep our focus on the present and the future of the program. And so as much as we enjoyed the national championship game, it doesn't end with that. We have to continue to try to grow our program, continue to recruit the kind of players and young men that aspire to be great and want to do it here at San Diego State with a great coaching staff.
Dutch, let's get into March. I mean, here we are. You play last night. Obviously, a back and forth ending there. UNLV wins on their home floor. You know, your teammate plays to get even at 58 before UNLV, to their credit. I mean, Dedon Thomas Jr. hit a tough shot, and then UNLV made a really good defensive play late on Micah Parrish's shot. What are your primary takeaways as you look back and prepare for Boise?
That it's a tough for us to win a regular season title now because we didn't win enough of these close games on the road. Whether it was getting a rebound at the end of the Nevada game, making a final shot, or getting a stop against UNLV, Utah State's on top because they made those kind of plays. They hit a banked-in three-point shot at Fresno. They got a 5-point play at Vegas. They survived a technical in the last minute of the game at Boise to get a win, and they've won those games, and that's why they're on the top. So we haven't made enough timely plays to win those kind of games, and if we're going to do damage in March, we have to find a way to win those kind of games.
Dutch, we've talked before, I mean, you and I, about the importance of a top 5 Mountain West tournament seed, because if you're not a top 5 team, you don't start in the quarterfinal round. You start in that play-in day on Wednesday. So how critical is that here? I mean, whether it's a win, of course, that's your first order of business Friday against Boise State, but how significant is it to lock up potentially a top 5 seed?
Yeah, you don't want to play in the play-in game and have to win 4 games in 4 days. That's a tall order for anybody. I know how physical and mentally taxing it is to try to win 3 in 3 days. So to come from the play-in situation is extremely difficult. It's been done. It's been done in a lot of conferences. I think it was done the year that UConn won the national title.
Right.
They had a play-in all the way through. So obviously we don't want to be in that situation. We're going to play as hard as we can against Boise to make sure we're out of that. But it's going to be what it's going to be. All we can control is our level of play, and we want to be playing at a high level come Friday.
Take us through senior nights, because there's so much emotion, but the order of business is winning an important game. I mean, obviously your team has been so good throughout the course of this year and every year, essentially, at Viejas Arena. So what does it take on a senior night to be fully able to deal with all the emotions, but also play maybe as good as you can play because you're playing a really good team in Boise?
Yeah, it's just embracing that moment. It's the excitement of the seniors stepping on the Viejas floor for the last time. Obviously, the ones we know for sure are Darion, Jaden Ledee, and Jay Powell. Eligibility used up, and then there'll be guys like Lamont and Micah that will actually be able to come back, but we'll go through senior night and decide, like Keyshawn did a year ago, if they want to be back, you know. And so there's always those mixed emotions like that. So we're excited to get those seniors out there for a curtain call and honor them.
You've had some great, I mean, you've coached some great players, San Diego State, Michigan, elsewhere. This season isn't over, but how do you, I mean, what's your recollection here? I mean, Lamont Butler and Darion Trammell and Jaden Ledee and Micah Parrish, guys that have played national championship games. Jay Powell, what he's meant here in his lone season on the Mesa. How are you going to recall this class?
That they just gave us everything they had. They come to work every day. They're good students. They're good people. And they've given everything they've had to the Aztec program. And so whether it's on the biggest stage when playing for a national championship or whether it's dealing with them after a tough loss like last night, they're nothing but class. They're good kids from good families, and we're just honored to have had them here at San Diego State with us.
So, Dutch, as you know, Boise State's one of the hottest teams in the country. There's a lot of them in the Mountain West. They did lose yesterday to Nevada. Nevada's one of the hotter teams in the country. UNLV is like that as well. You've already seen Boise, obviously, at third place. They've got some terrific players, including Tyson Degenhardt, who's been here for each of the last few years. What are some keys here? What's it going to take? Again, you've been perfect to this point at home. What's it going to take to win on senior night against Boise?
Just to bounce back, to be mentally tough, to get over the disappointment of last night. We've already been on the practice floor today, to put that in the rearview mirror and put all our focus on Boise on a quick turnaround prep. Both teams have a quick turnaround prep. So just play with great energy, play with great swagger, know we're good, play like we're good, and get that Viejas crowd behind us and find a way to win on senior night at Viejas Arena.
Friday night, 7 p.m. Dutch, before you go, just on San Diego. I mean, you spent 25 plus years in this city. You've seen the way San Diegans have turned out for your program, what Aztec basketball, Aztec athletics have become in the city. What can you say about it? I mean, I'm sure when you were younger, you never envisioned, you didn't know where you'd end up, and you end up spending 25 plus years in San Diego. What does this city mean to you and your family over all these years?
I think everyone would agree San Diego State is San Diego's team. It's not just San Diego State. We're San Diego's team. And we don't have professional basketball. We don't have professional NHL hockey. NFL's gone. We have the Padres and the Aztecs. And we take great pride in representing the city and trying to do it with class, try to win the right way, and make the whole city proud of what we're doing.
Dutch, again, congratulations. I mean, thrilled for you and your program and your coaches and your family and for all of those that have been supporting this program for as long as you've been here. So enjoy it. I know there's work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done, including Friday night against Boise State and the lead up as well. But thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, John, for having me.
All right, great stuff. Brian Dutcher, head coach of the Aztecs. I mean, he's synonymous, like Steve Fisher, with winning and success in San Diego. And that's what he is. And that's what's going to continue here at San Diego State. So when I saw that news, you're hoping, you're always hoping. Brian Dutcher waited 18 years to get the top job. He's been here 7 years as head coach. You know, who knows how many years he could be the coach overall. Like Darren was talking about earlier during the Fusion. I mean, he's already won close to 200 games. You know, could he win another couple hundred games on the Mesa or more potentially in the years ahead? But again, really thrilling news for San Diego State fans and for Aztecs basketball. We'll continue to react to that. Brian Dutcher here through the 27-28 season, hopefully, if not longer than that. Plus, again, we're getting you ready for opening day 2 weeks from now for the Padres in Korea against the Dodgers. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. All right, I'm excited to get over to Windmill Farms tomorrow. I'll be on the Mesa. San Diego State has some press conferences going on tomorrow. We're getting ready for senior night. Friday at Viejas Arena. We're getting ready for the women's postseason tournament, the Mountain West tournament. Spring football is about to start for Sean Lewis, his staff, and his players as well. And you know what I'm doing on my way out of San Diego State? I'm heading over to Windmill Farms, the college area's natural grocer. I'll pick up lunch because at their deli, bring a sandwich card or pick one up. Your 8th sandwich is free. And it's easy, it's quick, it's affordable, and it's healthy. That's what you're looking for in lunch, right? Looking for something that's quick, but you don't want to eat junk, right? You want something that's healthy and affordable. And Windmill Farms really prides themselves on their pricing and on their high-quality ingredients and the freshness of their food. So get over to the deli for lunch or dinner, and whatever your grocery needs are, they're going to hook you up. Organic farm fresh produce and meats, amazing craft beer, everything you need in one-stop shop. Windmill Farms, family-owned. Trevor and his family have been serving San Diegans for 20-plus years. Centrally located right by San Diego State, family-owned. You can visit Windmill Farms Market to see their weekly specials. Again, windmillfarmsmarket.com to see their weekly specials. They support local businesses. If you don't live in the college area or work in the college area, go to Instacart, have your groceries delivered directly to your doorstep, whether it's lunch, dinner, tailgating, game day, grocery needs. Shop local, shop at Windmill Farms. So that was pretty cool. Catching up with Brian Dutcher again, announced earlier today. San Diego State extended through the 27-28 season. If you missed that conversation, it'll be at sportssd.com. You can watch it back on YouTube. Search for Jon and Jim 760. You can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify. So check it out. Again, like I said off the top of the show, before Kyle Glaser showed us, people can react the way they want to react. If this is 25 years ago and San Diego State loses to Las Vegas and in the Thomas and Mack, you'd be like, oh, what do we got here? All right, stay tuned. All right, we're back. Live radio, Brent. Nothing like it. But again, last night, it's like, you still have the possibility of winning a share of a Mountain West regular season title, and you're looking for that marquee road win in the league, and you scratch and claw your way back, and you get even, and then you lose, right? UNLV made plays. They did. So credit to UNLV. And we read the text line, I see social media, and I see message boards, and people are freaking out. Be thankful that you're in a spot where you can freak out. Because 25 years ago, it's just who would have cared? I mean, it would have been expected that they would lose. But now everything's been turned on its head. San Diego State won 21 of their last 23 against UNLV. And the league has become, at least this year, a power league. That's what it is. So, you look up and, maybe you go 12-6 in the league, not 14-4. Say, oh my gosh, San Diego State has 6 losses in the league. But there's teams in the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the SEC that have suffered 6, 7, 8 league losses as well that are going to be highly seeded in the NCAA tournament. Like this isn't a bad thing that San Diego State is being tested as they prepare for March.
No, in a way, this is almost what we've wanted. Because, if you would have went back like 5 years ago, a lot of these losses would have just killed us in the net and everything else. But it just shows you the testament of what the Mountain West Conference is this year, to where, we're getting these losses where 5 years ago we would just be getting obliterated by these in the net and everything else. And this year, it's barely moving the needle anymore.
Yeah, it's such a good point. I'm glad you mentioned it, Brent. So again, skies falling stuff last night, and I understand it. The Aztecs are in a national championship game. You want to see them lock up the best possible seed. You want to see them make a deep run. They want the same things. So I understand it. But the ramifications of last night's loss metrically? We always talk about the net. Nobody more than me. You know where they went, Brent? From 19th in the net to 19th in the net. That's the metric ramifications. There's 360 programs. There are bad losses that have crushed teams, to Brent's point, this year. You lose to a lowly ranked team, you could drop 5, 10, 15, who knows, 20 spots earlier in the season. San Diego State didn't lose to a bad team. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm not. I'm just saying, like, other teams have motivations as well. UNLV has a lot to play for, like San Diego State. Just because you couldn't win at Moby against Colorado State, or couldn't win at Logan against Utah State, or last night against UNLV, doesn't mean you can't win at the Thomas and Mack in the Mountain West tournament, or can't win wherever you play the first round of the NCAA tournament. We don't know. Like I said earlier, there are teams that go like 30-1, Purdue last year, whatever they went. They lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. And that's not the only example. 5 years prior, UVA loses to UMBC. Then the next year, they win a national championship. You're judging teams fairly or unfairly on what they do in the NCAA tournament. How was San Diego State judged last year? Like one of the top 2 teams in the country, because they played for a national championship. Dutcher said this before. It doesn't mean it was their literal best team. It was their best team by finish in the NCAA tournament, but we never saw Malachi Flynn and Yanni Wetzel and KJ Fagan in 2020. We know 2011 and 2014 made Sweet 16 runs, the only Sweet 16 runs before last year for San Diego State. We'll never know how 2011 would have played 2020, or how 2014 would have played 2023, or how 2024 would play 2023. That's all for theories and hypotheticals. But the book's not finished. That's what I said last night. I still feel that way. I can't guarantee you anything. I can't. I wish I could. I don't know if they're going to be a 4 seed or a 5 seed or a 6 seed. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to win their opening round or be upset in their opening round. All of it is possible. I don't know if they're going to make a Sweet 16 for a second consecutive. I wish I did. But there's nothing I saw last night that says something is impossible. And I see a lot of that reaction. Oh, it's been a good year. They can't win on the road. Well, they're not going to play on the road. They're not playing UNLV at the Thomas and Mack in the NCAA tournament. They're not playing Utah State and Logan. I'm not saying they're going to win against whomever they play, but I'm telling you that the circumstances are different, and they're capable. They're capable. There's one game all year that they weren't in the second half. One game at New Mexico. One out of, have they played 30 games this year, and they're 22-8, and they're undefeated at home, and they have a chance to do something Friday night they've never done in the history of the program, win every game at home. They've never done it in a season. Will not be easy, by the way. Boise State, San Diego State both have tons to play for. Tons to play for. We'll get into it in the second hour. Plus, back to the Padres looming roster decisions. Will they make a signing for their outfield before leaving for Korea or not? Hour 2 of Jon and Jim, including the wrap, is on the other side. Also, in the 4 o'clock hour, your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Shamrock St. Patty's Day Music and Beer Festival. That's coming March 16th, about a week away, to the Gas Lamp, san diego shamrock.com for tickets and info. We'll give those away coming up later in the 4 o'clock hour. The wrap is on the other side. Hour 2, Jon and Jim. That's next.
Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by Progressive Insurance. The Aztecs lost on the road last night to UNLV 62-52. The team's final regular season game is this Friday at Viejas Arena against Boise State. Pre-game coverage with John and Fletch will start at 6 with the tip with Ted after 7. And in good Aztec news, head coach Brian Dutcher has signed an extension to stay with the university. The Padres took on the Reds in Cactus League action today, but lost 6-2. In NFL news, the Bills cut ties with All-Pro safety Jordan Poyer, and the Commanders have come to terms on a one-year deal with tight end Zach Ertz. The Lakers take on the Kings tonight. You can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760, pregame at 7:15 with the tip around 7:30. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at progressive.com. That's progressive.com.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Jon and Jim with Brent. Jim is off today. He's having a procedure done. He is back tomorrow. Then he's away for his bachelor party on Friday. There's your Jim update. If you have any other questions about Jim, tag him on Twitter or X at Jim Russell SD.
What are the odds? You know, he told us about his lame bachelor party yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
What are the odds that he's gonna get there and his buddies are gonna have a totally different
expectation?
Plan for him, because it's not really up to Jim.
Yeah, exactly.
What he does. So it's yeah, sure, you might go to Hell's Kitchen and eat on Saturday, but you might say you're not going to the strip club, but I kind of feel like they're going to drag him to a strip club.
Well, here's the thing with Jim. I don't really know anything about anyone that spends any time with Jim other than us. You're right. He basically spends his time with us, Aaron, and his dog Bentley. Their dog. So I have no idea. I don't know what his friends are like. I don't know if they're, hey, let's go grab a glass of wine, or if they're going to be up until 6 a.m. in Vegas. I have no idea. If they're anything like Jim, I don't expect it to be that enthralling. But if they're not like Jim, it could be.
All I know is if my friend, I would not trust my friends. Whatever they told me we were going to do, I would not believe it for a second, because they would say one thing just to get me to go. Because if they would tell Jim what they're going to do, he'd be like, no, I don't want to go.
Right.
So they're just, no, we'll golf and go to Gordon Ramsay and we'll do everything you want to do just to get you to Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's just stream it on our YouTube channel, or maybe he'll live vlog it or blog it on X at Jim Russell SD. Probably not. But Jim is back tomorrow. We can ask him about what his plans are, the full plans for bachelor party weekend. We'll get to the wrap in a moment. We touched on this briefly. I asked this question to Kyle Glazer, Baseball America, and what he said is spot on. I'm absolutely not disagreeing with it, but I was at least, raising eyebrows at this idea that Xander Bogaerts, remember we heard day one of camp. This was a surprise. Day one of camp. Hey, I'm going to make the team decision and go from short to second. My second year of an 11-year deal. I'm moving off my position. The better defender is Ha-Seong Kim. He's in his prime. So am I, but he's younger. He's a brilliant defender. He's Gold Glove caliber. So he's the new shortstop. And I respected that. And a lot of Padres fans do. And I still do. Because I think a year ago, a lot of what got in the way with the Padres was, hey, we got all these stars, but we have our own agendas, right? That was the thought process, at least. Yeah, I want to win, but I want to bat third. I want to win, but I want to play this position. Well, the indicator, the symbolism of day one of Bogaerts' moving position was, hey, there's no I in team. Team first. And I respect that and respected it. And he's a two-time champ, and he's got unbelievable credentials through his career to this point. He really does. Xander Bogaerts has been a terrific Major League Baseball player for the better part of his entire career, has a case maybe with a good career with the Padres to be a Hall of Famer, right? With all that being said, sometimes you got to rip the Band-Aid off. You were a shortstop. You are the second baseman. Now, Kyle's point's valid. If Kim's unavailable, he's hurt, he's off, who's going to play short? I don't know the answer. Maybe it's Xander Bogaerts. That makes sense. He's played shortstop in the bigs for 10 plus years. But it's spring training. And the season starts in 2 weeks, and you got a weird couple of weeks coming up because you're going to travel. You're going to play some exhibition games in Korea. There's only so many opportunities to get reps at second. And today, Kim dealing with a back, they say it's fine. It's nothing to get concerned over, but why not be cautious when you have time? So Ha-Seong Kim didn't play. But guess who did play short? Bogarts. So on its face, no big deal. Middle infielders are middle infielders. They play multiple positions. But you got a guy that's never played second base in his career. Doesn't he need reps at second? And if every time Kim is off, you want to play short, what does it say about your actual desire to play second and be the best second baseman you can be? Like, we've all been there before. I'm trying to think, you do something for family or friends and you're on board with it, but there's a part of you that's like, yeah, I know I told Brett I wasn't going to go to the movies and I was going to stay in and study because that's what mom and dad want me to do. And I decided that's what I should do too. But just this one movie, I mean, I've been studying. Can I go to the movie? Again, there's no harm, no foul in that. There's no harm, no foul in that. But to me, it's I heard Xander Bogaerts was the second baseman. I didn't know that meant second baseman unless Ha-Seong Kim has a day off.
I don't know. That's kind of like when they moved Fernando to the outfield, and then all of a sudden he would just sporadically be back at short every once in a while.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because, okay, Tatis, now that he's in the outfield, well, okay, let's say Kim has a day off. I don't see Tatis going into Schilt's office saying, hey, can I play short?
Well, not anymore, but when they initially did it, though, they kind of went back and forth a little bit. So maybe they'll just do it initially until they figure something else out.
Maybe. And it's at some point, right? It's some point the ship sails. Tatis was this unbelievable defender last year in the outfield. Shortstop's done. Could he do it? Of course. If there was an emergency and all of a sudden because of switches or injury, you're in the 12th inning of a game and you need a shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr. can play short. Xander Bogaerts, of course, can play short. You have other infielders on your roster. Of course, if pressed into duty, could play short for Ha-Seong Kim. That's not my point. That's 100% fair and accurate. And I'm not saying Kim's playing 9+ innings of 162 games. That's not reasonable. He's getting off days. He'll DH. He could get nicked up. That all happens over the course of a year. I'm just saying in spring training, and 2 weeks ago, it's hey, I'm all in on second base, and now Kim has an off day and you're playing short. And again, it makes sense probably because he will be asked to play some short this year. But I'm really fascinated to see what he looks like at second. I've read some of the quotes. I've seen some of the clippings. I've heard him talk, and he seems optimistic with it. There are nuances and differences with it as well. I think some people believe that it protects your body a little more. You have the shorter throw as well. But is it just going to be seamless? I mean, I don't know if it'll be seamless, but hopefully.
I think a lot of it is just going to be kind of things will be flipped because, from, when he has to cover the bag on a steal and just stuff like that is just going to be reversed from when he was over at short. So that might just be one of those things where it's just, muscle memory of just so many years of playing at short to where he might just have to get used to that. But it's like I said, it's just going to be a matter of just switching sides.
It sounds like that, and there's a lot of guys that's what it is, right? I mean, Cronenworth has been a good middle infielder. Kim is a brilliant middle infielder. Bogaerts has been a good shortstop. He has been, I don't know if he's been elite, if we're going to be honest.
I wouldn't say elite.
But he's been fine. Beyond serviceable, good, long
He's
career.
Been above average.
Above average defensive shortstop. I think that's fair. I thought he played the position pretty well a year ago, especially considering his wrist, because he was hobbled by a wrist a lot. Does that mean it's going to be seamless? I don't know, but hopefully. And again, he's a veteran and he's won. And is this better for the team? I think it is. So I do think that got spring off on the right foot, which was really encouraging a couple of weeks ago. And now we're just kind of waiting for them to finish off this roster as we've been talking about. By the way, if you missed our Brian Dutcher conversation, Brent mentioned in his update, he's been extended through the 2027-28 season. We caught up with him at 3:30. If you missed it, we'll play it back for you coming up in the 5 o'clock hour at 5:30. Also, later this hour, this has been a good giveaway. Later this hour, we have a pair of tickets to the Shamrock St. Paddy's Day Music and Beer Festival, March 16th. We'll give those away later this hour. Without further ado, let's get to this, though.
You ever get one of those involuntary twitches and then you just push a button?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what happened. How will you remember this San Diego State senior class?
I mean, with fond memories for a lifetime, truthfully, how I'll remember Lamont Butler and Darion Trammell and Jaden Ledee and Micah Parrish. And by the way, Jay Powell, to his credit, has done a really nice job in his only year on the Mesa. Like, it's not easy to do. And he's had some huge games. But when I think about this class, I immediately go back to last year. So that's why I can't, put Powell in that conversation. He wasn't on the team. It's not his fault. But I go back to last year, and it's memorable. We can argue is it the best play in the history of San Diego sports or not? Whatever. That's for another day. Whatever it is, it's one of the most memorable moments for San Diegans in their sports fandom history for a lot of people. It's one of those moments, where were you when? And I'm trying to recall who was on the floor when it happened. Lamont, he hit the shot, you may recall. Darion had to be because of his reaction. Micah definitely was. I think he was stunned. I want to say I recall Jaden coming off the bench to celebrate. I'd have to watch it back. But Nathan's, how about this? I remember Ted's call. Nathan and AG are part of the defensive play because AG alters a shot. Nathan grabs the rebound. The outlets to Lamont. Lamont in the waning seconds gets the shot off. And I think the other two on the floor, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, are Darion and Micah. My point is this. You can't ever forget about them. So they've had amazing careers, all of them different in their own unique ways, all of them unique and special. But how can you say anything other than positives about what these players have meant to San Diego State, including one of the great moments in the history? Not just one of them, the game before the game. Do we forget Darion Trammell with 2 seconds left gets fouled and misses the first free throw and hits the second in a tie game to send San Diego State to its first ever Final Four? So how do I remember them? For forever is how I'm going to remember these seniors. Next question.
Who's the Padres shortstop in 2025?
This is a potential tens of millions of dollar question. Is Ha-Seong Kim extended? Possible. Maybe it's why they're saving, because they'll spend more on him. Maybe that's happening. Absolutely possible. Would not rule it out. I don't know the exact cost. I don't think there's a significant discount for staying, but it's possible. So there's Kim. It's not Bogarts, right? You can't move them and move them back. Is it Jackson Merrill, who for a season as a 20-year-old is moved to the outfield only to return to the infield? Again, knowing A.J. Preller's line of thinking with other players, specifically Fernando Tatis Jr., you can't fully rule it out. So, I think it's not Tatis. There's possibilities. If I was a betting man, what's more likely 2025 shortstop, Brett? Kim or Merrill?
Merrill,
because Kim is going to be a free agent.
Because I don't think they'll be able to re-sign Kim, so I don't know if he'll be around. And I think, unless Merrill just, comes out and just looks like the, next Ken Griffey Jr. for some reason out and left, then, he's young enough that they can move him back. This isn't like, Fernando, where he had a couple years at short and then they just made the choice that, we're going to move you out to outfield.
Sure.
They're still kind of just playing around with what they're going to do with him. So, if he just goes out and plays outfield out of necessity this 1 year, then that's fine. Cause it's going to, he's still going to get at bats and everything. So as long as it doesn't turn into a trend to where, I don't want him playing outfield this year, then short, then outfield, then short, then out, just pick one. But just if you're going to take some time to figure out where he's going to fit in the long run, then that's fine.
That's fair. All right, let's get to our next question.
Who is the best team in the NBA?
Well, there's probably some recency bias here, but truthfully, they've been good all year long. And that would be the Boston Celtics. I say it again, we've made fun of Jim here this week because the Warriors at the end of a road trip lost by 52 points. In Boston, the Celtics are 48-13. It is the best record in the NBA. It is the best record. Now, Milwaukee has been very good, but they're 41-21. And then again in the West, which has a lot of good teams, but are we believing in like the T-Wolves or the Thunder? No, we're believing in the Nuggets.
I still believe in the Nuggets.
Yeah, who don't even have the best record in the West. But I think in a 7-game series, I'm taking the Nuggets. But I think the two best teams in the NBA, I think it's, I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion, Brent, but I'm sensing it's going to be Boston, Denver in the NBA Finals.
I wish it was my Bucks, but I don't trust them lately. They don't want to play defense, and come on, Doc Rivers in the playoffs. I say more. The Boston's interesting because I brought up yesterday about how, they were like the first team in NBA history to win like 3 games by 50 or more points in a season.
Right.
But then they pissed away a 21-point lead against Cleveland last night in the fourth quarter. So it's one of those things where, Boston will blow out the Golden State or some of these other teams by 50, and then they'll go and they'll blow a 20-point lead against, Cleveland last night. When they played the Bucks a couple weeks ago, they got blown out by Milwaukee. So Boston's kind of up and down, though. As soon as they look like they're the clear-cut favorite to win like the whole thing out of just the championship, then they'll do something like last night to be like, well, maybe.
Right. And I still want to believe in the Clippers, but at the end of the day, it's the Clippers.
Well, it's like I said, I don't trust Doc Rivers in the playoffs, and I don't trust the Clippers in the playoffs either.
So it's like I want to, but again, if I was a betting man, it's hard to bet against Denver and Boston in the NBA Finals. It would be hard to bet against the Nuggets.
That'd be a good final, though.
It would, absolutely. Potentially a 7-game series. All right, next question.
Who will have a better year, Manny or Fernando?
See, this to me is interesting, and there's a lot of ways you could look at this. I mean, a year ago, it was Tatis that was coming off the injury and the suspension, and it was Manny coming off like the career, maybe not a career year, but close to a career year. He finished second in MVP voting, and now it's like the tables have turned a little because Manny's off injury in a down year, and Tatis isn't injured. Now, he's not off an MVP caliber year, but there's been a shift here. And you got Tatis, who is entering his prime, and you got Machado, who's been in his prime for a long time. I'm not saying he's out of it, but he's been in his prime for a long time. So, is it bad to say this? I don't think it's bad to say this. I hope it's Tatis. Like Tatis, who missed 17 months and was suspended and switched positions. You could use it, man. I would love to see Tatis finish top 3 MVP voting, hit 40 home runs, drive in 100, steal 35 bases. Like, I want to see a vintage MVP season from Fernando Tatis Jr. Not that I don't want to see from Manny, but I really want to see from Fernando this year.
I kind of feel like the pressure is more on Tatis just because it's been a full off season since the injury and a full off season and season since, the whole ringworm thing. And now he doesn't have, last year he hasn't played in, almost a year and a half. It's going to take him a while to get the rust shaken off, and it's going to take a little bit for this to happen. He had a whole season last year. He played winter ball. He's had spring training. I think everyone is going to just, here's that E word again, have expectations for him this season to not necessarily replicate what he did the year prior to when he got hurt, but just do something similar to that. Maybe, get back to, doing all the matrix slides and stuff like that he used to do that would just blow the baseball world's mind.
Yeah, remember like we would talk about Tatis rules? Like let free Tatis, let Tatis be Tatis. We don't talk as much about it. I mean, he's become this brilliant defender with a great arm. We know about his bat. I think last September, he clearly ran out of gas. He had never played a full season in the major leagues, and he ran out of gas last September. I'm with you. I'd love, it's funny. I'd love the flashy. I'd love the star on display, but I'd also like just the consistency. I would like to see 162. I could truthfully, as much as I was enamored by it in 2019, the unbelievable slides, his abilities on the bases, his flair, his everything about him. I was enamored. He's one of my favorite baseball players ever. I kid you not. And he's still young. But here's the thing. It's like the radio business. I think we've talked about this on the air before. A former program director said, sustainability, right? You're not looking to have one great show. You're looking to have a lot of really, really, really good shows. Like, we're not in the business of having one show. It doesn't end. It's a soap opera. As the World Turns has been on the air is it still on the air?
I'm not sure.
But it was on the air for a half century or more. Why? Sustainability, not because of one great season. It wasn't because of season 3. It's because they could deliver a product every single day, every single year, and people would listen or people would watch that. So that's my thing with Tatis. Like, I'm not looking for a 3 home run game in April. I mean, I'd love to see it, but I want to see him maintain success, maintain health, not fall off in the second half of the year, put together a full season. And he did last year. He put together a full season. And it's hard to be fully critical. The odds were stacked against him a year ago because of the injury and the suspension, everything that went into it. He really performed well considering all those circumstances. Is it still on the air?
No, it was canceled in 2010.
How long was it on the air?
Like 50 years.
50 years. So
some of them are still on because I think like Days of Our Lives is still on. Young and the Restless is still on. My mom watches that.
50, 60-year runs. Like, that's impressive. Like, I mean, I'll use a colleague. I mean, Darren, that's amazing. What Darren and Marty have done in the air for 2+ decades, easier said than done. Easier said than done. But a lot of radio hosts that have come and gone while Darren's been on the air, delivering to San Diegans day in and day out. Easier said than done. It's what I want to see from Tatis. Like, he seems like the type of player that you just stay healthy for like 5 years, he's got to win an MVP. He's so talented. He's already been top 3 MVP voting like 2 times, or top 5 a couple of times. Like, you stay healthy for 5 years, he's going to run into one. You stay healthy for 10 years, he's going to run into 2. Manny, of course you want to see Manny produce, but I really want to see that bounce back, big time, huge, entering prime year from Fernando Tatis Jr. That's what I want to see. All right. Later this hour, your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Shamrock St. Paddy's Day Music and Beer Festival, March 16th, San Diego Shamrock.com for tickets and info. We'll let you know when to call for those. Is it as easy as Caleb Williams? Is it just take them? No regrets, cannot miss, franchise, generational. Is it that simple for the Bears or not? Plus, reacting to a text that just came in on our text line, 70470. Start it with the word team. That's next. All right, hey guys, it's Schaefer. I've been telling you about my friends over at Novo Brazil Brewing, all their phenomenal area locations. I've been to them all within really the last couple of weeks, whether it's IB or Otay Ranch with the massive LED screens or the brand new spot in Mission Valley, which is just spectacular. They all are. And they've got the limited edition kombucha that supports the Mesa Foundation. You heard Brian Dutcher talking about the importance of NIL. You can support San Diego State men's and women's basketball players with the limited edition Aztec Raspberry Kombucha. Check it out at Novo Brazil Brewing. It was taste tested by Lamont Butler, Jaden Ledee, Micah Parrish, guys that played in the national championship game last year for SDSU. It's co-branded. It supports the Mesa Foundation, which supports San Diego State student athletes. You need to get to their area locations. You really do. I know they had a watch party last night for the game. They'll have more coming up for March, obviously. The Mission Valley spot, and all of them are great. Mission Valley, brand new, 350 seats, indoor, outdoor, full bar menu, 60 taps of Novo Brazil beer. The kombuchas, lots of flavors, including the Aztecs Raspberry. They have seltzers, but it's family friendly. Family friendly. Great for families because the food, great healthy food. All the offerings you could want. Sandwiches, salads, tacos, burgers, empanadas, appetizers, Brazilian-inspired entrees. These are phenomenal places. You need to check them out. If you're a sports fan, these are some of the best sports bars in San Diego. For more information, visit novobrew.com. That's Novo brew.com.
Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by Progressive Insurance. The Aztecs lost on the road to UNLV last night, 62-52. The team's final regular season game is this Friday at Viejas Arena against Boise State. Pregame with John and Fletch will start at 6, and the tip with Uncle Teddy will be shortly after 7. In other Aztec news, head coach Brian Dutcher has signed a 5-year extension that will keep him on La Mesa through the 2028 season. The Padres took on the Reds in Cactus League action today, but lost 6-2. In NFL news, the Bills cut all-pro safety Jordan Poyer, and the Commanders have come to terms on a 1-year deal with tight end Zach Ertz. The Lakers take on the Kings tonight. You can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760. Pregame at 7:15, and the tip will be shortly after 7:30. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at progressive.com. That's progressive.com.
All right, Brent just mentioned Brian Dutcher signed through 27-28. Good news for Aztec fans, San Diego sports fans. If you missed our conversation at 3:30, we'll play it for you at 5:30. So be listening if you missed our conversation with the head coach of the Aztecs. Getting ready for Senior Night Friday, 7 p.m. Viejas Arena. We'll be outside broadcasting Jon and Jim beginning at 3 p.m., then pregame coverage at 6 p.m. All right, Brent has strong opinions on Caleb Williams that he will share. It's very hot button. It is. It's very topical. I know we're still a little whiles off April for the draft, but it's year-round. So we'll talk about Caleb Williams' future, what it means for the Bears, what it means for Williams. Like, is this can't miss or not? But first, I want to answer this text message. All right, 70470 started with team. Also, in 15 minutes, we'll give away that pair of tickets to the Shamrock St. Patty's Day Music and Beer Festival. We'll tell you when to call, and we'll play trivia. First 2 callers will be contestants. Really good prize, really good giveaway. So 858, and we had some of this last night on the text line after San Diego State UNLV. 858 says, I'll be blown away if they make the Sweet 16 in the NCAAs. Okay, that's what he writes. 2 average of a team away from Viejas. They are 8-8. Oh, excuse me. I don't know the exact record. They're 500 in road neutral games this year, either road or neutral. Added up, they're exactly 500. And then he writes, this reeks of a first or second round knockout. So let me just respond, and then I want to hear from Brent. So that if the Aztecs are a 4 or 5 seed, could be as high as a 4. Maybe it's harder after last night. Could be, who knows? But just hear me out. Let's just say they're going to be a 5 for the sake of argument. That means they're going to be a favorite in their first game, like they were a year ago against Charleston. By the way, you're not a 20-point favorite, like a 5-point favorite. And they won last year by 6, I think, against Charleston. And it was a tie game with 3 minutes to play before Matt Bradley made a couple of really good plays. So, okay, just hear me out. So you're a 5 seed. Let's say you're a 5-point favorite. Let's say you win the game. Far from a foregone conclusion. We watched this tournament. 16 seeds have won. And then all of a sudden, you're in the second round. And he writes, hey, I'd be blown away if we made it out of the first or second round. If you're a 5 seed, you're an underdog in your second game. You're playing a 4 in all likelihood, unless there's an upset. So, like, the mathematics of it would suggest that 5 seeds only win 1 game, as in you'd be exceeding expectations by winning 2 games and making it to the Sweet 16. And oh, by the way, San Diego State's only been in 3 Sweet 16s ever. Like, this idea that you should just walk out of bed and be in a Sweet 16, it's not easy to win 2+ games in an NCAA tournament. So let's just take them as they come, is my point.
Here's my thing. I don't like it when people are like, oh, well, they won't make it to the Sweet 16. We don't know the layout of the bracket yet.
We have no idea.
That's my biggest thing. You know, I don't care what they're seeded. I will never be like, oh, well, if they're 3 seed, they'll get no, because you don't know what the layout of the bracket is going to be. So you can't really say anything until you see, you know, who else is in their bracket, who they would have to play, and just, you know, look down on it a little bit of like what would be in the future. We don't know, you know, what region they're being, who would be in the region with them. So we have no idea. You know, you could say that just, based off of, you know, the way they played on the road this year, they're not going to make it. We don't know. They could get the luck of the draw and get put in the most cupcake region in the entire tournament. We don't know. So that's why I like to reserve a little bit, at least until, you know, wait till 2 Sundays from now when Selection Sunday comes out.
Well said.
Then if you want to look at it and go, okay, now that we know where they're going and who is in their bracket, there's no way they're going to make the Sweet 16. Then that's fine. But until we at least know who they're going to play, we can't really answer that question.
Well said. Okay. And listen, last night, could it go a long way in determining whether they play in Spokane or Salt Lake or get shipped out? It could. It absolutely could. But I can't say that definitively right now or not. They could be a lower seed and still in one of the westernmost points, or they could be a higher seed and potentially shipped out. And oh, by the way, a year ago, they were in Orlando, Florida and won a pair of games, then in Louisville, Kentucky, and won a pair of games in Houston. So, like, I've said this a lot. Brent's heard me say this, that all things being equal, you want everything in your advantage, but the location isn't saving you. You're not winning because of Spokane. That's not the reason. It could be a factor, but if you told me right now that the better matchup, whatever that means, is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as opposed to Salt Lake City, Utah, I'm going to Pittsburgh. I want the better matchup. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I don't care if they have to go to Anchorage, Alaska. If
not a site this year,
it could be in the future. If,
right?
I don't care where they have to go. If we have a better path through the tournament, someplace that's the farthest location away, then we'll go to the farthest location away because what would you rather do? Go the longest distance but have the easiest route, or play across the street but you're gonna have to play the 3 best teams in all basketball?
70470, start it with team. All right, the Caleb Williams discussion is almost ad nauseum if you're an NFL football fan. And if you're in the Midwest, it is a massive talking point, obviously. You have Chicago, the Bears, with the first pick in the NFL draft. They just drafted a quarterback not long ago. They've had down years. Brent is a Bears fan. It's always a topic of conversation. Quarterback with the Chicago Bears is not exactly like a golden child historically with the position. So they have the possibility with the first overall pick to do whatever the hell they want. Caleb Williams, Heisman Trophy winner, right? I mean, it's the chosen one, people have said, is available, but they have a quarterback in Justin Fields. What are the Bears going to do? And are we believing when we hear pundits say can't miss, generational, transformational, one of the greatest ever, or not? Because we've probably said that previously about Bears quarterbacks and that hasn't worked out.
Well, they do that every year. Every year, there's, I remember Sam Darnold was supposed to be this big can't miss quarterback, and now he's played for like 8 teams in this 4 years. So it's kind of, now that more like scouts and people are looking at film, you're starting to get a little more dissension away from the whole, he's the next best thing to sliced bread and everything else, to where, like Merrill Hodge, and you say he had the mediocre football career. That's being nice, but I respect his opinion as a scout. I think he's a good scout. He said on Caleb Williams, and I quote, "The one thing that's clear, he is not special. He is not something unique like a Patrick Mahomes. And I hope the Bears don't think, well, let's try and make up for a mistake when we passed up on Patrick Mahomes by getting this Patrick Mahomes. This kid is not Patrick Mahomes. He ain't even remotely close to that."
Right.
So I don't know. I just think that if we just build some things around Fields, we'll be all right. Keyshawn Johnson said last week on his morning show that, you look at it like this. He goes, say they draft Caleb Williams. They struggle the first year, and do you think they're going to keep Matt Eberflus? No, they're going to fire him.
Right.
So they fire Eberflus. So the new coach, he's not going to keep Eberflus's staff. So that means after 1 year, Caleb Williams is already on his second head coach, second coordinator, and now he's pretty much in the same boat as what Fields was, to where they brought in Fields and he had like the year under Matt Nagy, then Nagy's fired, and they bring in Eberflus. So they're being the same situation. And a lot of the stuff too is our poor offensive line just going to block because Caleb Williams is
right.
back
It doesn't
there?
work like that.
As far as I know, they all like Justin Fields, so it's not like they're just going to let everyone come through and get him sacked.
That's a great point.
So, a lot of the problems that the Bears have now are still going to be present even if they draft Caleb Williams. But if they would trade Caleb Williams for like a Ricky Williams type haul to where they get like maybe 3 number ones and maybe a couple threes and stuff like that, then they can start addressing some of these other needs that, like they made a trade for an offensive lineman yesterday, which was a pretty good move for them, but they could go out and get some receivers and, go out and pay Saquon Barkley, go out and get another running back or something like that.
That's a fair point.
You can either just get Caleb Williams and pretty much be in the same boat we are now and just hope and pray that he doesn't become a bust, because if he does, Ryan Poles, you're fired and you're never going to get another job in the NFL.
Well, you made a really interesting point off air, which is like, listen, this is the Chicago Bears, and yeah, they do have a history. I mean, they've had some really dynamic teams, right? They've won Super Bowls, but here's the thing. It's the Chicago Bears, and they can't figure out quarterback, and whatever they do, they're damned. As in, they could draft them, and because it's the Bears, it doesn't work out. But they could not draft him, and because they're the Bears, he ends up elsewhere, and it does work out. And therefore, whatever decision they make, it's almost like a Sophie's choice. Like they pick him, it doesn't pan out, but they don't pick him, and it does.
It's going to be the same thing with Fields. If they
He goes somewhere else.
If they trade him to Atlanta or something, he's going to turn into the next Lamar Jackson. And
Right.
if they keep him, then he won't be. He'll be Jeff Blake or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. All right, call right now. Who wants a free pair of tickets to the Shamrock St. Patty's Day Music and Beer Festival, which is next week? It's March 16th, 10 days from now. Gaslamp District, San Diego Shamrock.com for tickets and info. First 2 callers will be our contestants. We'll do trivia on the other side. You need to call right now. These are free tickets. Everyone loves music and beer, right? Downtown, San Diego, March. Come on. Warm weather next week, by the way. 877-767-4760. Yeah, I think, seriously, mid-70s, high 70s, something like that. 877-767-4760. If you want those 2 free tickets, you see that on your phone, or was that, I misread that? 2 free tickets to the Shamrock St. Patty's Day Music and Beer Festival. 877-767-4760, right? Isn't it? Like 75
Next weekend.
Perfect for this. So call right now, 877-767-4760. That's next. So we're here last night, and it's a late start, and then we're doing a post-game show, and it's a long night. And I'm thinking to myself, I am starving. I need to go to the vending machine. No more vending machines for me because of Almond RX. I went to my car, got a pack of Almond RX. This will change the way you eat and snack. This is the healthiest thing you can be doing in your day. You're looking for something that curbs hunger, that's healthy and tasty. Almond RX is your solution, the first and only skinless almond fortified with vitamin D. It's good for your immunity. It's got your daily dose of vitamin D. It was founded by a San Diego sports medicine physician. RX is packed with a powerhouse, nutrients, antioxidants, supporting heart, cellular, and gut health, amongst several other healthy benefits. Here's the thing. You can get them right here in San Diego County. All right, almondrx.com. It curbs hunger. Nobody wants to go to the vending machine, okay? Right? It's not healthy. But you can curb your hunger with Almond RX. You can find Almond RX at any Foodland in San Diego County, Harvest Ranch at Encinitas, or at almondrx.com. That's ALMONDRX.com. Again, almondrx.com. By the way, if you go there right now, free shipping on orders over $25, okay? This is perfect for the on-the-go lifestyle. I'm working games. I'm working shows. I got a 4-year-old at home. He loves them, by the way. He loves these packs. It's healthy. It's affordable. It's got your daily dose of vitamin D. Free shipping right now on orders over $25. Go to almondrx.com. play Jim in Trainwreck Radio. It's not our Jim, but Jim is on the line. We're looking for a second contestant to play trivia. That's Trainwreck Radio. You're playing for a pair of free tickets to the Shamrock St. Patty's Day Music and Beer Festival, March 16th, downtown in the Gaslamp, March 16th. So call right now. 2 free tickets, 877-767-4760. Really good prize. 2 free tickets, music and beer all day, Gaslamp, March 16th, kicking off St. Patty's Day. 877-767-4760. Call right now if you want those free tickets. Shamrock St. Patty's Day Music and Beer Festival, 877-767-4760. Okay, so if you missed our conversation earlier, Brian Dutcher was with us in the 3 o'clock hour. You may have missed it. We'll play it back for you at 5:30. Dutch getting a 5-year extension announced earlier today from San Diego State. Great news, obviously, all the way around. Just great news because, well, and by the way, this 5-year extension includes this year. So it's through 27-28, 4 additional years in addition to the remainder of this 2023-24 season. So if you missed that conversation again, we'll have it for you coming up at 5:30. Brian Dutcher on his extension, on his time on the Mesa, on what's to come for the Aztecs, on senior night, by the way, for San Diego State. That's right. Senior night is coming for San Diego State Friday. We'll be broadcasting outside Jon and Jim at 3 p.m. An interesting topic of conversation, Dutch briefly touched on it in our earlier talk, was you got players that are seniors out of eligibility, and you have players that are seniors with eligibility, okay? So, and in this modern college basketball world, everyone can transfer every year. There are no limitations. There's nobody that has to stay or has to go. But you think about, so Darion Trammell's out of eligibility. Jaden Ledee is out of eligibility. Jay Powell is also out of eligibility. All right, so those 3 won't be back because they can't play college basketball anymore. But you got Lamont Butler, a 4-year player here on the Mesa with some of the most spectacular moments, obviously, in San Diego State history. You have Micah Parrish, who's hit some huge shots for San Diego State over the last 2 years. Huge. And you also have, well, you have a non-senior. You have a 4th-year player in Reese Waters, who, of course, can come back as well. So, you know, you just think about that. You always, like, as a coach a little bit, you always have one eye on the future. Like, I think Aztec fans right now, sports fans, people that like Selection Sunday, March Madness, you're thinking about, like, the season. Like, everything's on the line. Excuse me. This time of year, because you could win a national championship. Who knows, right? Everything's possible this time of year. But you're also thinking about next year. You're also thinking about your next team. So I think most Aztec fans are thinking that way right now as well. Like, what's next year going to look like? And in today's college basketball, you could retain a lot of your roster. You could lose a good portion of your roster. It doesn't guarantee anything one way or the other. I mean, look no further than the Mountain West Conference. Utah State replaced every single point from last year's team, and they're currently alone in first place in the Mountain West Conference. Alone in first place in the Mountain West Conference. You know, San Diego State coming off a national championship game run, oftentimes in the top 25 this year, lost a lot of pieces from last year's team. Still has put themselves in a position to maybe lock down a top 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. So you look at it a little differently is my point, because maybe 5 years ago, you just assume, you're like, oh, our sophomores like Matt Mitchell and Jordan Shackle, they become juniors. Or our seniors, well, they graduate. But now you got the COVID year. And now you got NIL. And now you have portal. And now you got players, regardless of class, that have decisions to make. But we'll see, is my point. I mean, is Lamont potentially going to be back for a 5th year? Could Micah be back? Not for a 5th year on the Mesa, but for a 5th year of college basketball? What about Reese Waters? Will he return for a 2nd year? What about some of these underclassmen, right? Elijah Saunders, Miles Bird, they've had terrific sophomore years. So it's something to keep an eye on. It's something the coaching staff is always keeping an eye on. And this is where NIL is critically important. We've talked to Jeff Smith at the Mesa Foundation this week. And it's one thing to add, but retaining is equally, if not more so important, is what I would say. Because the way, Brian Dutcher and Steve Fisher have done it, they want to have program guys. They want to have 2, 3, 4-year players. They don't just want to have 1-year players, maybe a 2-year player. You got to have that player that's been in your system for 3 years. They can preach the culture. And you got to pair those third and fourth year players with first and second year transfers and also players from the prep route that you've recruited. So it's an interesting song and dance, I guess I would say, to put a roster together. You're not just trying to put a roster together. You're trying to put a roster together that can win your league, get to the NCAA tournament, make noise. Like, it's not easy. Yet San Diego State's navigated it really well. This current era, NIL, transfer portal, Aztecs have been in the NCAA tournament, made their run, of course, last year, and again, well-positioned here in 2024. But again, if you missed our conversation with Brian Dutcher, we'll play it back for you coming up at 5:30. On the other side, we turn our attention back to opening day for the Padres 2 weeks from today. They leave for Korea 1 week from today. Is a free agent outfielder coming or not for AJ Preller and this Padres team? Is it a necessity to add an outfielder or a luxury for AJ Preller to add an outfielder? Plus another giveaway for you in the 5 o'clock hour. Brent's back page in the 5 o'clock hour. Jon and Jim without Jim. Hour 3 next. Stay with us.
Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by Progressive Insurance. The Aztecs lost on the road to UNLV last night, 62-52. The team's final regular season game is this Friday at Viejas Arena against Boise State. Pregame with John and Fletch will start at 6, and the tip with Uncle Teddy will be shortly after 7. In other Aztec news, head coach Brian Dutcher has signed a 5-year extension that will keep him on La Mesa through the 2028 season. The Padres took on the Reds in Cactus League action today, but lost 6-2. In NFL news, the Bills cut all-pro safety Jordan Poyer, and the Commanders have come to terms on a 1-year deal with tight end Zach Ertz. The Lakers take on the Kings tonight. You can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760. Pregame at 7:15, and the tip will be shortly after 7:30. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at progressive.com. That's progressive.com.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This will be the final hour of Jon and Jim, as it typically is. Reminder, if you missed our conversation with Brian Dutcher, as you've been hearing in the updates all day, we had Dutch on the show at 3:30. He's been signed to a contract extension through the 2027-28 season. Obviously, great news for Aztec men's basketball fans, San Diego sports fans. If you missed our conversation, we talked about the extension, this team, his 25-year run on the Mesa, alongside Steve Fisher. If you missed that conversation, we'll have it for you coming up at 5:30. Normally, we have Jim's back page. Jim isn't here today. Jim is undergoing a procedure. He's fine. He will be here tomorrow before leaving again Friday for his bachelor party. So Jim will be back tomorrow. But you got Jon and Jim. You got Jon with you. Brent is with you as well here for the next hour. All right, here's where I want to start the hour, if I can talk. Signing an outfielder for the Padres, necessity or luxury? I'd love to hear from Padres fans, either on the phones or on the text line. Maybe you're leaving work, you're driving around town, stuck in traffic. Love to hear from you. Is signing an outfielder, in your opinion, a necessity for AJ Preller or a luxury? Okay, 877-767-4760 or 70470. Start it with team. Let me lay it out for you. Right field, Golden. Tatis, right? Set and repeat. Stay healthy, dude. Hit 40 home runs, go vie for an MVP. All good. As good as you can get, arguably, in the sport. Right there. Center field, okay. Let's see. You've got the 20-year-old Jackson Merrill, who we initially thought might be an infielder and then comes into the spring, and he's been vying to be left fielder, and now he's been playing some center field. So let's just say either center or left is Merrill. Has it been a perfect spring? I don't know, but we can't get caught up in the numbers. People have said really good things. One of the top position prospects, not just in the Padres organization, but in baseball. May there be growing pains? Yeah. Kyle Glaser, Baseball America, formerly Baseball America, saying as such earlier today. No guarantee. Could be the National League's Rookie of the Year. We don't know. But Merrill, jury's still out, right? And then what? Jurickson Profar, 1-year deal, $1 million, has had some moments. Some of his best time in the major leagues has been with the Padres. He's versatile. He's likable. He's had moments. Is he sustainably the guy you want to plug in every single day and play? Maybe not. Then you got players vying for this, opportunity. Jose Azocar, Oscar Mercado. There are others, right? Trying to earn a spot on the team. Maybe a 4th outfield spot, 5th outfield spot, bench role, whatever it is. But a year ago, you had Juan Soto. Now, I know Trent Grisham struggled throughout his tenure, most of his tenure as a Padre. But this isn't like you've got 3 outfielders and 2 of them you just want to upgrade from, but you've got major league serviceable outfielders. We don't even know what they have in 2 of the spots. Because Jackson Merrill, we don't know. We've never seen him above AA. He's played 46 games above single A in his career. So you're hopeful, you're optimistic, but we don't know. And then beyond that, we really don't know. Jurickson Profar, yeah, again, he's shown you some stuff, but he's also been released by the Colorado Rockies within the last year. Yeah, and has struggled to hit consistently in the major leagues. And beyond that, Azocar, again, nice bench piece, nice 4th outfielder, good defender. defensive replacement, speed guy. Some of these veterans in camp, and there's a number of them. And some of them have had good springs, and some of them maybe can help this team. But as a regular, every day, penciling in 145 times. So that's why it's like, simple question. I don't know if it's a simple answer. Is it a necessity to add an outfielder via free agency or trade? 877-767-4760. Or is it a luxury? 70470. Start your message with the word team. What do you think, Brett?
I'd say it's more of a necessity. A luxury would be signing a shortstop when you already have 3 to 4 of them on your roster. That would be a luxury because that would be something that you don't really need, but you would like it. It's kind of like, I'm sure I don't know, Jones might be too little, but you have the whole needs and wants talk with like a kid of, oh, well, you might, want that Snickers bar, but you don't need the Snickers bar. You might want that, flashy, shortstop that we don't need, but we don't need it. We need another outfielder. That's why we've been talking about, for the last 4 months about who's going to play the outfield, because we need an outfielder.
Right. And truthfully, I mean, I'm simplifying needs. Like, most of the conversation this spring has been around this outfield, not around DH, not around back of rotation, not around close. They got options for closer, but they don't have anyone that's ever closed in the big leagues. Robert Suarez has one career save, I believe. Yuki Matsui's never pitched in the big leagues. He's had success overseas, a lot of it. Woo-Suk Go has never pitched above the KBO, Korean Baseball Organization. He's had success, but he's never pitched in the big leagues. There's expectation. There could be a learning curve. That's a reasonable expectation for players coming over from Japan or Korea. And Suarez had a down year, like not a lost year fully. His 2022 was brilliant. And then 2023 comparatively was nothing comparable. You can't even put him in the same sentence. So is he all of a sudden Josh Hader? And nobody has to be Josh Hader. I mean, Josh Hader is a Hall of Fame caliber closer. It's probably unfair to ask your next closer to be that person, but you have, out of Suarez, Matsui, Go, one career big league save. And you had Josh Hader a year ago. So that's something that has to be figured out on the fly. But people aren't talking about that. They're talking about the outfield because they don't have outfielders. Like, simple as that. They don't have major league veteran outfielders that can be plugged in every day and help you win. Unless I'm missing something. Necessity or luxury to add an outfielder. 877-767-4760. Let's go to the phones. Roy is on line 3. I'd love to hear from you, Padres fans. 877-767-4760. Necessity or luxury for the Padres to add an outfielder? Thank you, Roy. You're on with Jon and Jim.
Hey, dude. Nice talking to you again. Long time since we have. I hope you're doing well.
Hope you're doing well.
Life. Yeah. You know what? It is an absolute necessity. I mean, like you, we're passionate Padre fans. And you hear all these so-called rumors, which are they're junk. What beyond Tatis and maybe a Profar, who, in my opinion, if they'd have had Profar last year, he might have been one of those intangible guys might have got him over the hump early on in the year. Aside from a Tatis, what do they really have in the outfield? At least there's some serviceable guys. They're still unsigned. Even if they're coming off the scrap heap, they're better than what they have now. I mean, I don't know what this organization is spinning absolutely out of control. And it's mind-boggling. Absolute necessity to get at least one, if not two, serviceable outfielders.
Roy, before you go, and great call, before you go, why aren't they doing it?
You know what? I think it's money. You know what? I don't know what else you can say. I mean, last year, I know you and we talked about this last year. We all drank the Kool-Aid. We thought we'd have a parade. And now this year, it's like they're gun shy to go out and get anybody. I think they made a mistake in letting Soto go, personally. And the reason is because at least they had another guy to swing the bat. You got to contend. And I think all we're asking, we want a team that consistently can contend. And, I've spent 5 decades plus following this team, and there's been the one thing they've been inconsistent. They've been inconsistently consistent.
Right. Okay? Consistently inconsistent. Great point. Great call, Roy. I appreciate you calling. Thank you for your listenership. I want to hear from more Padres fans. Like, A, do they need to do it? And B, why haven't they done it as of yet? 877-767-4760, like in the chat on YouTube right now. James, loyal viewer, and I appreciate you, James, for being here. And I don't know if he's being facetious or truthful or, factual or honest, but he says, I guess Tim LeCastro, Brad Miller don't count as major league ready talent. I mean, there's a difference
Till
between
they're on the 40-man, no.
Yeah, I mean, right. There's a difference between non-roster invitees that either make a team or get cut, and Tommy Pham, who's available. Listen, there's positives and negatives of Pham. He's not the only example, but hear me out. The difference between Tim LeCastro and Tommy Pham is Tommy Pham was an everyday regular last year in the big leagues that helped the team win in a pennant race and was plugged in the postseason and contributed. Like, that's proven. He's been in the big leagues 10 or 11 years. He's been on winning teams over 500, something like 9 of the 11 or 8 of the 10. So, like, there's a difference. Like, comparing Brad Miller or Tim LeCastro, and by the way, they've both reached the big leagues. I'm not trying to be critical of who these players have been or what their possibilities are, and they may serve roles for the team. But there's a difference between coming off a bench, being a pinch hitter, maybe providing an organization some depth, and plugging someone into the outfield for 145 games and asking them to contribute in a big way.
The thing that's kind of perplexing me is, okay, like the caller said, he thinks it's mostly about the money. Okay, that's fine. But there's plenty of options out there that are cheap, affordable options that, you could go get Michael A. Taylor for around $3 million a season. There's another handful of players that you could get for, under 4 or 5. We're not talking about going out and spending 10 to 15 million on one player. So it just kind of boggles my mind as to there's affordable options out there, but they don't seem to even be interested in any of them. Like, they're just going to stand pat.
Right. So your next question there is why. Brent's spot on. We've said this continually. 20 million a year, get it. I get it. They've gone down the path before. It hasn't fully worked out. They want to stay under this collective bargaining tax, the CBT. There are reasons to do it. All makes sense. All makes sense. The high ticket, high price tag, I can be convinced that it doesn't make sense for the Padres right now. But then there's a tier below that, and then there's a tier below that, and they're not in on any of the tiers. There's lots of tiers, and you'd think you'd be in on some tier. This is AJ Preller. This is the gunslinger. This is a rockstar GM. This is a payroll that's come down $100 million. They don't have $5 million to finish off the roster. Now, you could always say it's March 6th. He could make a real move. And then we'll say, what were we worried about? That's possible. That is possible. But now we wait and we theorize. All right, 877-767-4760. Necessity or luxury? An outfielder. Adding an outfielder to this team. Brett wants to weigh in. Brett's on line 4. Brett, you're on with Jon and Jim.
Hey, Jon Jim, how's it going?
What's up, man?
I don't know. I just want to say I think everyone's pretty much overreacting a little bit. I think really with this team, you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of hungry young players that are going to come up and be fighting for spots.
Right.
And I really think it's just going to be a different kind of story from last year where everyone thought their spot was already given to them and no one really had to fight for it. So I just really think that this year with all the young guys coming up, that it's just going to be a different mentality. And I think, we might be a little short on the outfield, but, I think the guys we have right now, just give it a chance. I think some of them could turn out to be really good ball players. And the only way you could find out is letting them try,
No, that's a fair point, Brett. I mean, and thank you for the call. Like, here's what I would say. There's a fine line there. Brett's spot on. I'm not trying to make a point that Jackson, like, I've never said this. Let me be clear. I'm not saying AJ Preller can't scout, his front office doesn't have talent, that Jackson Merrill isn't capable of being a really good major league player, Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, it goes on and on. That's not my point. My point is this. Are they fully developed and ready to contribute on a contending team? And there's reasons to be skeptical. That's my point. If it's one player with a fully developed roster around them, I understand it. Happens throughout baseball. Rookies make impact all the time across Major League Baseball. You're right, Brett. You're 100% right. And how do you know unless you know? It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? You got to get an opportunity. So that makes sense. If it was last year's team and you replace Grisham with Merrill, understood. You say, okay, let's try it with Merrill. If it doesn't work out, we have Grisham in AAA, and let's see how this works. But we got all these pieces around him. We got the all-star closer in Hader. We got the Cy Young Award winner in Snell. We got the dominant left fielder in Juan Soto in his prime. We got Machado, Tatis, Bogarts. We can deal with having an unproven rookie like Jackson Merrill. This year's team ain't that. At least on paper. And correct me if I'm wrong. They don't have Josh Hader. They don't have Blake Snell. They don't have Juan Soto, right? So these are clear, defined differences. So I think you're putting a little more on the plate of someone like Merrill, and specifically with Merrill, an infielder moving to the outfield, age 20 season, 40 games over single A. It just feels a little bit like a lot right now. I'm not saying he's not good later in the year, 2025. He might be good from day one. I hope he proves me wrong. But I'm just saying, I think there are reasons, fair reasons, legitimate reasons to be skeptical.
I don't have a problem with, giving the young guys a shot. My only why I'm hesitant is that none of them have really stuck out in spring. If one of these young guys stuck out enough in spring, we wouldn't be talking about how they need to go out and, need to go get an outfielder, because we're just like, oh, well, so-and-so's he's having a pretty good spring. We keep talking about Jackson Merrill, but if you look at his stats, he's not like doing anything really amazing, and none of the young guys are really sticking out. It'd be one thing if one of the young guys was just destroying or doing something that he made him stick out, but none of them are really standing out. That's why we're kind of in this outfield limbo of not knowing where we're going to go or what we're going to do.
Right. So to your point, and Merrill's been fine. I mean, he's 1 for 3 today, 280. 710 or whatever OPS. It's good. Yeah, honestly, he's been good. He hasn't hit for power, but he's learning a new position. He's playing in Major League camp. He's been fine. I mean, I'm not asking more of him. I wasn't expecting him to hit 500, but like Kyle Glazer said earlier, there is no comparison. There's no comp between Cactus League and regular season. Not to say he can't overcome that hurdle, but what we're seeing now doesn't have any real, I don't know, it doesn't weigh in significantly, if at all, to what's going to happen once this thing gets real. Let's go back to the phones. If you want to weigh in on this, I mean, necessity or luxury for the Padres to add, whether it's an outfielder, DH, back end rotational piece. 877-767-4760. Let's go to Bailey. Bailey on line 5. Thanks for calling in. You're on with Jon and Jim.
Hey, yeah, I think it's a necessity, but I'm not really worried yet. I remember we were in a similar situation like this a couple years ago in spring training. And we had Will Myers, Trent Grisham, and everyone was talking about how horrible our offensive outfield was. But we ended up making an LDS that year. So, I don't know. I think Preller has a way of doing things that obviously make Padres fans frustrated, but I'm not too worried yet.
Wait, Bailey, before you go, so wait, that was the team. What year? Are we talking 2020 short season or 2022 team that went to the
2022? The spring training we made it to LDS.
Sure.
So that was 2 years ago.
Okay. Listen, I appreciate the call, Bailey. What I would say about 2 years ago is, well, they acquired Juan Soto at the deadline in like a franchise altering move, one of the biggest trades in Major League Baseball history at a deadline. Now they put themselves in that position to their credit. They really did. They also were fully all in payroll wise, even to start 2022. I mean, you already had Musgrove, Darvish, Snell, Machado. You thought you had Tatis, then you didn't because of suspension and injury, right? So, I understand the point. That's fair. You don't have a finished roster day one. That's fair. I buy that. I do. Let's go to Dave. Dave on line 2. You're on with Jon and Jim. What's up, Dave?
Hey, thanks, guys. I just want to do a little bit of old business first. I don't know if I articulated yesterday quite correctly to where you understood the problem with the budget, and I'll make it clear one more time, and you tell me if you get it or if you don't. They have not settled on a number, at least that we know of, that settles the TV contract. Therefore, that $60 to $66 million hole, unless that gets plugged, this explains they put the cap on AJ. They've got other financial issues that are going on. I've looked it up. They're short on some money, not just from the player side of things, John. It's coming from other areas of the franchise. So until the TV gets settled, and a lot of teams have done the same thing, they've experienced the same problem. They've capped it. So they've done a 180. I like what Darren Smith said. This is a team of intrigue, more or less what Brent said, I think, a few minutes ago. The problem is there's no margin for error. And Jim has pointed this out many times. If you have injuries or if you have guys that once again have down seasons, you just don't know until the games are played, obviously. So the margin for error is slim and none. No question about that. But you got to play the games to see. Clearly, they have a financial issue that is yet to be solved to our knowledge.
Dave, appreciate you, as always. I really do. But there's a difference between having no margin for error and no left fielder, right? There's a difference. Like, I don't care what kind of financial issues you may or may not have. You can't possibly be in a situation where you can't go get a regular in your outfield. Right? I'm not asking for them to spend $22 million. But the idea that, like, Eddie Rosario, who signed today for $4 million, is off the table because he's making $4 million. I mean, really? That's where we are? That's where we are right now? One more call before we hear from Brian Dutcher on the other side. He signed that extension through 27-28 earlier today, remaining on the Mesa. Great news for Aztec fans. Let's go to Darren on line one. Darren, thanks for calling in, man. You're on with Jon and Jim.
Hey, John, how's it going? Hey, I love this topic because now that the season is drawing
Yep.
closer, and it feels like every day we wake up and there's still not an outfielder signed, it just seems more and more head-scratching. And like today with the Rosario thing, I feel like it's every time we've seen a guy who is, quote-unquote affordable go to another team when we're like, hey, we could probably use one of those guys. It continues to be a head-scratching thing. So, no, I don't think it's a luxury to ask to sign one of these older veterans, whether it's a Pham type of guy or, a Duvall, or even someone who's just older, maybe has a little bit of pop, but someone who's done it before. It just seems crazy that they are pretty much saying we think Jerks and Profar playing, 150 games, or him and Jose Azocar splitting starts out there is better than one of these guys. I just don't think that's true. And like some of the other callers have said, there really isn't a huge margin for error if, there really isn't a lot of depth in that outfield. And the depth you do have is super unproven. So, yeah, I don't think it's asking a lot. It's not a luxury. To me, you have to sign a dude who can play the outfield, who has been there, done that, played a handful of years, and has been productive. But we're running out of time. We got 2 weeks, so better get on it.
They're getting on the plane in a week. And thank you, Darren. Again, they're only playing 2 games in Korea. I don't want to make it out to be life or death. It's not. I mean, it can be solved. We're not 90 games into the season where they've got no productivity from left field. I mean, shoot, we've seen them get no productivity from center field previously. But at some point, it's like, why aren't you acting? Kyle Glazer, earlier today, formerly Baseball America, said Eddie Rosario would have made the Padres better. And he's not making 10, he's making 4. It's the price, right? I mean, the price of going out to eat is $15, but you got to eat, I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I get not having a margin for error, but I don't get not having a left fielder. That I don't get, but they will. I promise you. In Korea, there'll be someone standing in left field. If you missed it earlier, Brian Dutcher signed through 2027-28, agreeing to a 5-year extension that includes this year. Our conversation with Brian Dutcher. You'll hear that next on Jon and Jim. All right. Hey, guys, it's Schaefer. One of the things about being an afternoon sports talk host, I love working from 3 to 6. I love working in the afternoons. But one thing we always say, me and Jim, Brent included, we're always hungry. Midway through the show, you're thinking about a meal, dinner time, no more. Almond RX is your solution to curb hunger. In addition to that, it's healthy, it's affordable, it's tasty, and also it's your daily dose of vitamin D. You got to try them. You got to pick this up. Founded by a San Diego sports medicine physician, Almond RX is packed with a powerhouse of nutrients, antioxidants as well, supporting your heart, cellular health, gut health, among several other healthy benefits. Now, Almond RX, here's the deal. Again, maybe you're looking for a meal replacement. Maybe you're trying to avoid a vending machine. Me and Jim were always heading over to the vending machine. Not anymore. Not with Almond RX. Not in these packs, right? By the way, it's skinless, right? So it's skinless. It's healthy. It's tasty. It curbs your hunger. And they're available right here in San Diego. You can find them at Foodland, any Foodland in San Diego County, Harvest Ranch in Encinitas, or at almondrx.com. That's ALMONDRX.com. Act now. Go to almondrx.com right now and write it down. You're getting free shipping on orders over $25. So Almond RX curbs hunger, is perfect for the on-the-go lifestyle. You're in your car, you're dropping off your kids, you're working at night, you're going to an Aztecs game, you're going to a Padres game. You don't have time for a meal. You don't want to just eat something that you shouldn't be eating. AlmondRx.com. Free shipping. Check them out today.
Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by Progressive Insurance. The Aztecs lost on the road to UNLV last night, 62-58. The team's final regular season game is this Friday at Viejas Arena against Boise State. Pre-game coverage with John and Fletch will start at 6, with the tip with Teddy at 7 p.m. The Padres took on the Reds today in Cactus League action, but lost 6-2. In NFL news, the Bills cut ties with All-Pro safety Jordan Poyer, and the Commanders have come to terms on a one-year deal with tight end Zach Ertz. The Lakers take on Sacramento tonight. You can hear that right here on San Diego Sports 760. Pregame at 7:15 with the tip around 7:30. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at progressive.com. That's progressive.com.
Brian Dutcher agreeing to a 5-year contract extension that includes this year through 2027-28. John Schaefer back with you on Jon and Jim. If you missed our conversation earlier with Dutch, he joined us this afternoon. I started the conversation by saying, did you ever envision this type of success 25 years later, still on the Mesa, agreeing to this contract extension?
No, I mean, obviously, we had great confidence in what we were doing. We thought we could build this into a winner, or we wouldn't have come.
Yep.
And that's Steve Fisher's vision. It's Rick Bay hiring us, and Viejas Arena being built by the students at San Diego State to set us up for this run. And it's just been really gratifying, but we're still driven to be better. We want to be better, and that's the goal every day, is to get better.
As a program, when you initially got here and you go back, 25 years, was there a first hurdle you felt like from a program perspective needed to be cleared to get San Diego State pointed in the right direction? Like, what did it take initially to get this thing pointed the right way?
Talent.
Yeah.
We had to go out and recruit. We had to sign good players. And whether it was Randy Holcomb coming all those years ago, Tony Bland transferring from Syracuse, countless others that believed in our vision, because there wasn't anything tangible at that time, believed in our vision for the program. And then obviously what we've done, people can see it's brick and mortar now. It's all been done. We have players in the NBA. We played on the highest stage you can play on, played for a national championship. And now it's just continue to try to build the program where we can go back and win a national championship.
What are the hurdles like moving forward? The sport has changed so much since you first got here 25 years ago. We talk about NIL. We know about the impact of the portal. What are the hurdles that you'll continually need to clear from this point and moving forward as you continue on in this deal?
It's NIL. It's NIL. That's everything. And, it's when they talk about the Ohio State job, they're wondering if they have enough NIL, or all the NILs going to football. And so people aren't talking about just the job anymore. They're talking about resources that go with the job. And we've done a good job. Mesa Foundation, we're raising awareness, we're raising money. And whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, NIL, if you want to stay relevant, you have to be a part of it. That's what we're trying to do, grow NIL, grow the program, and continue to aspire to greatness.
MesaFoundationSD.org for Aztec fans. All right, so the sustainability, 2 head coaches for 25 plus years, your contract going now through the end of the 27-28 season. What does it signify for yourself, for your staff, for your support staff, for your players? What can you say about the state of San Diego State's basketball program?
That as good as we are, we don't rely on or look back on what we've done. We're looking what we want to do, continue to keep our focus on the present and the future of the program. And so as much as we enjoyed the national championship game, it doesn't end with that. We have to continue to try to grow our program, continue to recruit the kind of players and young men that aspire to be great and want to do it here at San Diego State with a great coaching staff.
Dutch, let's get into March. Here we are. You play last night. Obviously, a back and forth ending there. UNLV wins on their home floor. Your teammate plays to get even at 58 before UNLV, to their credit. Deon Thomas Jr. hit a tough shot, and then UNLV made a really good defensive play late on Micah Parrish's shot. What are your primary takeaways as you look back and prepare for Boise?
That it's a tough for us to win a regular season title now because we didn't win enough of these close games on the road. Whether it was getting a rebound at the end of the Nevada game, making a final shot, or getting a stop against UNLV, Utah State's on top because they made those kind of plays. They hit a banked-in 3-point shot at Fresno. They got a 5-point play at Vegas. They survived a technical in the last minute of the game at Boise to get a win, and they've won those games, and that's why they're on the top. So we haven't made enough timely plays to win those kind of games, and if we're going to do damage in March, we have to find a way to win those kind of games.
Dutch, we've talked before, I mean, you and I, about the importance of a top 5 Mountain West tournament seed, because if you're not a top 5 team, you don't start in the quarterfinal round. You start in that play-in day on Wednesday. So how critical is that here? I mean, whether it's a win, of course, that's your first order of business Friday against Boise State, but how significant is it to lock up potentially a top 5 seed?
Yeah, you don't want to play in the play-in game and have to win 4 games in 4 days. That's a tall order for anybody. I know how physical and mentally taxing it is to try to win 3 in 3 days. So to come from the play-in situation is extremely difficult. It's been done. It's been done at a lot of conferences. I think it was done the year that UConn won the national title.
Right.
They had a play-in all the way through. So obviously we don't want to be in that situation. We're going to play as hard as we can against Boise to make sure we're out of that. But it's going to be what it's going to be. All we can control is our level of play, and we want to be playing at a high level come Friday.
Take us through senior nights, because there's so much emotion, but the order of business is winning an important game. I mean, obviously your team has been so good throughout the course of this year and every year, essentially, at Viejas Arena. So what does it take on a senior night to be fully able to deal with all the emotions, but also play maybe as good as you can play because you're playing a really good team in Boise?
Yeah, it's just embracing that moment. It's the excitement of the seniors stepping on the Viejas floor for the last time. Obviously, the ones we know for sure are Darion, Jaden Ledee, and Jay Powell. Eligibility used up, and then there'll be guys like Lamont and Micah that will actually be able to come back, but we'll go through senior night and decide, like Keyshawn did a year ago, if they want to be back, and so there's always those mixed emotions like that. So we're excited to get those seniors out there for a curtain call and honor them.
You've had some great, you've coached some great players, San Diego State, Michigan, elsewhere. This season isn't over, but what's your recollection here? I mean, Lamont Butler and Darion Trammell and Jaden Ledee and Micah Parrish, guys that have played national championship games. Jay Powell, what he's meant here in his lone season on the Mesa. How are you going to recall this class?
That they just gave us everything they had. They come to work every day. They're good students. They're good people. And they've given everything they've had to the Aztec program. And so whether it's on the biggest stage when playing for a national championship or whether it's dealing with them after a tough loss like last night, they're nothing but class. They're good kids from good families, and we're just honored to have had them here at San Diego State with us.
So, Dutch, as you know, Boise State's one of the hottest teams in the country. There's a lot of them in the Mountain West. They did lose yesterday to Nevada. Nevada's one of the hotter teams in the country. UNLV is like that as well. You've already seen Boise, obviously, at third place. They've got some terrific players, including Tyson Degenhardt, who's been here for each of the last few years. What are some keys here? What's it going to take? Again, you've been perfect to this point at home. What's it going to take to win on senior night against Boise?
Just to bounce back, to be mentally tough, to get over the disappointment of last night. We've already been on the practice floor today, to put that in the rearview mirror and put all our focus on Boise on a quick turnaround prep. Both teams have a quick turnaround prep. So just play with great energy, play with great swagger, know we're good, play like we're good, and get that Viejas crowd behind us and find a way to win on senior night at Viejas Arena.
Friday night, 7 p.m. Dutch, before you go, just on San Diego, I mean, you spent 25 plus years in this city. You've seen the way San Diegans have turned out for your program, what Aztec basketball, Aztec athletics have become in the city. What can you say about it? I mean, I'm sure when you were younger, you never envisioned, you didn't know where you'd end up, and you end up spending 25 plus years in San Diego. What does this city mean to you and your family over all these years?
I think everyone would agree San Diego State is San Diego's team. It's not just San Diego State. We're San Diego's team. And we don't have professional basketball. We don't have professional NHL hockey. NFL's gone. We have the Padres and the Aztecs. And we take great pride in representing the city and trying to do it with class, try to win the right way and make the whole city proud of what we're doing.
Dutch, again, congratulations. I mean, thrilled for you and your program and your coaches and your family and for all of those that have been supporting this program for as long as you've been here. So enjoy it. I know there's work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done, including Friday night against Boise State and the lead up as well. But thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, John, for having me. All
right, Brian Dutcher, earlier today, again, the good news on the Mesa for San Diego State fans, the Aztecs head coach signed through the 2027-28 season, a 5-year deal, including this year, but includes the next 4 years as well. We'll take a time out. Jim isn't here. Brent is. We have Brent's back page. That's next. All right, so imagine waking up this time next week and being 100% debt-free. No credit cards, no car loan, no personal loan. Hey, guys, it's Shay for Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit can make it happen. Homeowners are turning their home equity into cash almost instantly with Loan Pronto's AI-based system. You can get approval in about 10 minutes with almost no documentation, no appraisal, and no hassle. You can get hundreds of thousands of dollars out of your home. Think about that. Use that money to pay off all your other loans. The average homeowner saves over $850 a month doing this. $850 a month. Listen, your home value's way up. You could use that to wipe out all those credit cards, get some money for home improvement. Literally hundreds of thousands are at your fingertips. And approval is minutes, just minutes away. Call now. Here's the number. Write it down. 619-207-4336. 619-207-4336. LoanPronto.com. Again, 619-207-4336. NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval. Equal housing lender. All right, the quote-unquote good news, Jim's back tomorrow. For one day only. Make sure to join us 3 to 6 before he heads out for his bachelor party to Vegas on Friday.
I told the Jim I didn't have my mic on.
Oh,
I
good.
thought the good news was he was gone again on Friday then.
Well, depends on how you look at it. But no, think about Jim. He'll be back tomorrow. He's got a bachelor party. Hopefully all that is behind him. It'll be interesting to see. Like a year from now, is he back to his is he drinking soda and eating? You think so?
Yes.
Yeah. That's how people
you,
are.
You give him more credit. You said a year from now. I give it like
a month from
2
now.
months.
Yeah.
But
2 months from now?
wedding time, he'll be back to
Maybe after the wedding.
6 Cokes a day. And
all right. Without Jim, let's get to this.
now, John, as a fake vegan, do you completely trust when you go to a restaurant or someplace and they say that what they're giving you is vegan?
Yeah, I don't care. Because I'm more vegetarian. In fact, I had a soup the other day that was like chicken broth based. I'm like, I'm fine. The point is, I'm not eating like a chicken. I'm not eating a turkey, but I bend the rules.
Okay, because I bring this up because a vegan's nightmare came true for one Long Island bakery. There was a woman who owned a bakery. She still owns it. It's still there in Long Island, New York, who she was passing off donuts, claiming she made them herself and saying they were gluten and vegan.
Oh, no.
She was buying them from Dunkin' Donuts and then just passing them off as her own. She got busted.
How?
She got busted because Dunkin' has when they put sprinkles on their donuts, they're in the shapes of like little D's.
Oh yeah, sure.
And they are in the classic, the pink and like kind of bluish Dunkin' colors.
Yeah.
She delivered donuts to a place and they had the Dunkin' sprinkles on them, and somebody asked her about it and she refused to comment on it. So the place has been busted that she was trying to pass Dunkin' Donuts off as vegan, gluten-free donuts. So some people are throwing a fit because they're like, hey, I could have a gluten allergy and you could, get me sick or something. So
yeah, like, isn't there like a better way to do that? Like, if you're gonna steal donuts, you would do it from like the largest donut chain in the world. Like, maybe have a different plan.
Yeah, well, especially when they pretty much have their initials
on the donut,
on the sprinkles. Yes.
Yeah, that's a really bad idea. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, buyer beware,
right,
John, next time you go and get something vegan. We have an announcement. Where did it go here? The Padres have announced that Ludacris will perform at the 3rd annual Dinner on the Diamond event. This is going to be on Thursday, July 11th at 6 p.m. It's a gourmet dinner that is on the Padres playing field with tables and everything, hosted by Padres players, coaches, and executives, alumni, all of that. And entertainment this year will be provided by Ludacris, and I guess they also have a live auction as well. So
yeah, that's a pretty unique event. I mean, you're in think about that setting. Like, this is close to public. Like, there's not a lot of people. You got players, you're on field, you have Ludacris. That's like a wedding.
It's like golf, only with Ludacris and no golf.
Right.
So got that to look forward to if you want to. Like I said, that's going to be July 11th out at Petco at 6 p.m. And my last story is something that shouldn't be a story anymore because we voted on it like 8 years ago. But do you know what Sunday is, John?
It is Is it turn back or spring ahead, fall back? Spring ahead. We lose an hour?
Yes, we lose an hour. It's daylight savings on Sunday. Like I said, even though California voters voted like 7 or 8 years ago to get rid of daylight savings, we still do it for some reason. And so that's going to start on Sunday. So you have to set your clocks forward. So we lose an hour of sleep, but we get an hour of sunlight back. So.
Well, that's the thing. I'll make that trade any day of the week. I'd prefer we don't do it at all, to your point.
It was awesome last week, just when you'd go outside at 6 o'clock,
6 o'clock
and it wasn't pitch dark out. Yeah,
exactly. So, okay, we'll make that trade every day of the week. But to your point, I don't need to make the change in the first place in November, especially in Southern California.
We voted on it. So why are we still doing it?
Yeah, again, it's not that bad here. Like, again, East, Midwest, that first day you turn the clocks, it's dark at 4:29. You're clearing snow off your car. It's freezing. You don't want to do anything after work. obviously better here, but I'm with you. Like, let's make it better for all people. Like, I don't know if we need to be doing it anymore.
I don't mind daylight savings or, fallback or either one of them. But, like I said, we voted on it. That'd be like, hey, we voted to make the speed limit 80 miles an hour, but yet, they'd still give people tickets for driving, 80 miles an hour. It's like, no, we voted so we could do this.
Right.
So,
by the way, Steven in the chat, if they set up the concert stage properly, Ludacris may actually be playing left field. So there it is. We came up with it after days and weeks and months of conversation about the Padres' plan with this 26-man roster about their starting lineup. We have figured it out. Ludacris, Dinner with the Diamond, actually is the left fielder for the San Diego Padres in 2024. All right, good show.
Move it, Okar. Get
right, exactly. I love it. Hopefully, even a better show tomorrow. Jim Russell returns to his own show. Jim, Thursday edition. Brian Dutcher show tomorrow night, talking about Dutcher's new contract. Takes him through the 2027-28 season. We'll get you ready for senior night. House Arena Friday, 7 p.m. A lot going on this week. And again, we're inching close to the Padres opening day. They'll leave for Korea in just a week. If you missed anything today, including our conversation with Brian Dutcher, check it out at sportssd.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, or Spotify. If you're listening to Jon and Jim on a podcast, please leave a review as well. You can find us on social media. Search for Jon and Jim. JONANDJIM. Back tomorrow at 3 for Brett and Jim. I'm Jon. Keep it here. San Diego Sports